November 5, 1945. Northern Cebu Island, Philippines. The jungle air hangs thick with humidity and the scent of damp earth, vines tangling like forgotten barbed wire. A group of emaciated Japanese holdouts emerges from the undergrowth, led by nurses in tattered uniforms, their faces gaunt from months of hiding. Hands raised, they step into a clearing where American soldiers wait, rifles at the ready, but not raised. Lieutenant Masako Yamashita, a Red Cross nurse, clutches a white cloth, her eyes wide with resignation. The sun filters through the canopy, casting shadows on the ground scarred by recent skirmishes. Whispers among the women, expectations of swift execution, as propaganda had warned. Instead, the Americans gesture calmly, offering water from canteens. Trucks rumble in the distance, ready to transport them south. The path to captivity unfolds, where unexpected humanity awaits in the form of simple comforts long denied. As the echoes of surrender lingered across the Pacific, the final months of World War II revealed the unyielding grip of ideology on those caught in its wake. By mid-1945, the Allied campaign had ravaged the Japanese Empire, beginning with the devastating island-hopping strategy initiated after Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. American forces, under commanders like General Douglas MacArthur and Admiral Chester Nimitz, reclaimed territories, from Guadalcanal in 1942 to the bloody battles of Iwo Jima in February 1945 and Okinawa in April-June 1945. Okinawa alone claimed over 110,000 Japanese lives, including civilians pressed into service. Emperor Hirohito's regime, steeped in Bushido code and the concept of gyokusai, honorable death over surrender, propagated a no-retreat doctrine. Soldiers and auxiliaries were indoctrinated to view capture as disgrace, with propaganda depicting Americans as barbaric demons who tortured and mutilated prisoners. Suicide grenades and mass self-immolations became grim realities, as seen in Saipan in 1944, where thousands of civilians leapt from cliffs rather than face the enemy. Within this fanaticism, Japanese women played critical support roles. Driven by patriotic duty and societal pressure, the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy employed thousands of nurses through organizations like the Japanese Red Cross Society, established in 1887 and militarized during the war. By 1943, over 20,000 women served as nurses or auxiliaries, deployed to front lines in China, Southeast Asia, and Pacific Islands. Recruited from ages 17 to 45, they underwent rigorous training in Tokyo or regional centers, learning wound care, sanitation, and evacuation under fire. Figures like Taike Hagiwara, a nurse on Okinawa, exemplified their dedication, often working in cave hospitals amid constant bombardment. These women wore uniforms with red armbands, carried minimal supplies, and faced the same hardships as troops: rationed rice, malaria, and dysentery. Ideology bound them tightly. Many were taught that surrender meant violation or death at enemy hands, reinforcing the fight to the last edict from leaders like General Mitsuru Ushijima. In the Philippines, recaptured by Allies in 1944-1945, Cebu Island became a focal point of resistance. After MacArthur's landing on Leyte in October 1944, American divisions like the 77th Infantry pushed across the Visayas. Cebu fell in March 1945 following amphibious assaults and guerrilla aid from Filipino forces under Colonel James Cushing. Japanese remnants, numbering around 8,500 under Major General Takeo Manjome, retreated to northern hills, engaging in guerrilla warfare. Among them were female auxiliaries, nurses tending wounded in makeshift camps, scavenging for food amid monsoon rains. Holdouts persisted even after Japan's formal surrender on September 2, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri. Leaflet drops and loudspeaker appeals urged capitulation, promising humane treatment under the 1929 Geneva Convention, which Japan had signed but often ignored. As weeks turned to months, isolation eroded resolve. In northern Cebu, small groups emerged from jungles, hands raised, uniforms ragged from exposure. The promise of safety clashed with ingrained fears, setting the stage for revelations in captivity that would challenge everything they believed about the victor. The Philippines archipelago, a chain of over 7,000 islands, bore the scars of prolonged occupation and liberation. Invaded by Japan in December 1941, just days after Pearl Harbor, the islands endured 3 years of harsh rule under General Tomoyuki Yamashita's forces. Manila fell in January 1942, followed by the infamous Bataan Death March in April, where 75,000 Filipino and American prisoners suffered atrocities, forced marches, beatings, and executions, resulting in thousands dead. Resistance simmered through guerrilla networks led by figures like Ramon Magsaysay, supplying intelligence to allies. The turning point came with MacArthur's return, fulfilling his 1942 pledge, "I shall return." On October 20, 1944, U.S. forces landed on Leyte, initiating a campaign that liberated island after island. By March 1945, Cebu was targeted. The American Division, comprising the 132nd, 164th, and 182nd Infantry Regiments, assaulted beaches near Talisay under naval bombardment from the USS Denver and others. Japanese defenses, fortified in hills with pillboxes and artillery, inflicted heavy casualties, over 400 Americans killed in the first weeks. Amid the fighting, Japanese female auxiliaries found themselves entangled in the collapse. Many had arrived via transports like the Teya Maru, assigned to field hospitals in Cebu City or remote outposts. Their duties extended beyond nursing. Some managed supply depots or communications, adapting to tropical diseases like dengue and beriberi with limited quinine and atabrine. As Allied advances intensified, orders from Tokyo emphasized tenacity. Emperor Hirohito's August 15, 1945, radio broadcast announcing surrender, termed the Jewel Voice broadcast, reached few holdouts, muffled by poor signals and disbelief. On Cebu, remnants under officers like Captain Shiro Sato fragmented into small bands, surviving on coconuts, roots, and occasional raids. Women like Nurse Lieutenant Chieko Nohara, documented in post-war reports, described hallucinations from starvation and constant fear of American devils. Surrender leaflets, dropped by P-51 Mustangs, featured safe conduct passes and promises of food, medical care, and repatriation. But many were dismissed as tricks. United States policy toward prisoners stood in sharp contrast to Japanese practices. Guided by the Geneva Convention of 1929, which the U.S. ratified, American forces emphasized humane treatment to encourage surrenders and gather intelligence. General Dwight D. Eisenhower's directives extended to the Pacific, mandating proper housing, nutrition, and medical aid. POW camps, such as those on Angel Island in San Francisco Bay or repurposed facilities in the Philippines like Camp O'Donnell, provided barracks, rations exceeding 2,000 calories daily, and recreational activities. Interrogators from the Military Intelligence Service, often Nisei Japanese Americans like those in the 432nd Infantry Regiment, conducted sessions with respect, offering cigarettes and tea to build rapport. For female prisoners, separate quarters ensured privacy, with access to hygiene facilities, a far cry from the makeshift latrines and cold bucket washes endured in the field. These policies, rooted in American values of justice and efficiency, aimed to dismantle enemy morale. As holdouts on Cebu trickled out in late 1945, over 200 surrendering in November alone, the stage was set for personal confrontations with kindness that pierced. Through years of indoctrination from the depths of isolation, personal stories emerge, revealing the human toll of unwavering loyalty. Japanese women auxiliaries, like those on Cebu, carried the weight of family expectations and national honor. Raised in a society where women were guardians of the home front, many volunteered after the 1943 mobilization decree, leaving behind lives in cities like Tokyo or rural villages. Diaries from survivors, such as Nurse Tomiko Morimoto, describe initial pride in serving the emperor, tending to soldiers with herbal remedies, and bandages fashioned from scraps. Yet, as supplies dwindled, fear gripped them. Propaganda films shown in training depicted American GIs as rapists and murderers, urging women to choose death via cyanide capsules or grenades. In the jungles, hallucinations from malnutrition blurred reality. One auxiliary recalled mistaking rustling leaves for enemy patrols, her heart pounding in rhythm with distant gunfire. Emotional anchors tied them to home. Letters smuggled in, photos of children, the scent of cherry blossoms evoked in memory. Surrender meant not just defeat, but betrayal of ancestors, a shame that haunted dreams amid the ceaseless rain. Shifting focus to the battlefield, tactical necessities shaped their contributions amid desperation. In defensive operations on islands like Cebu, women auxiliaries bolstered logistics in ways that extended Japanese resistance. Assigned to units like the 35th Army, they managed ammunition distribution, repaired radios with makeshift wires, and evacuated wounded under cover of night. Their non-combat status, per imperial decree, limited them to support, yet in practice, they faced combat perils, dodging strafing runs from P-38 Lightnings or booby-trapping paths with punji sticks. Compared to American nurses in the Army Nurse Corps, who operated closer to front lines with armored ambulances and plasma supplies, Japanese women relied on bamboo stretchers and limited morphine. This disparity highlighted tactical inefficiencies. While U.S. forces rotated personnel with rest periods, Japanese holdouts endured constant vigilance, leading to breakdowns. One report from a Cebu guerrilla noted auxiliaries signaling positions with flares, a tactical edge that delayed Allied advances but sealed their fate in encirclement. Technology further underscored the chasm between empires, particularly in hygiene and sustenance that sustained or broke morale. Japanese field technology lagged in tropical environments. Water purification tablets were scarce, leading to reliance on boiled rainwater collected in helmets, often contaminated with leeches or silt. Showers were a luxury. Auxiliaries washed in cold streams using salt for soap, their skin cracking from exposure. American forces, equipped with mobile desalination units and quartermaster corps showers powered by gasoline heaters, maintained hygiene to prevent outbreaks. Innovations like the M1941 field range allowed hot meals, contrasting Japanese rice balls laced with weevils. For women, this meant enduring infections without antibiotics, their technological disadvantage amplifying vulnerability. Radios crackled with Tokyo's orders, but batteries failed in humidity, isolating groups further. The sight of American C-47 Skytrains dropping supplies mocked their own airdrop failures, where parachutes tangled in trees. Leadership molded the fates of these women, forged in the fires of imperial decree against the framework of international accords. Emperor Hirohito's military hierarchy enforced absolute obedience, with generals like Tomoyuki Yamashita issuing orders that equated surrender with treason. For female auxiliaries, leadership from Tokyo's war ministry restricted roles to support, barring combat arms under the 1943 Auxiliary Service Law. Commanders in the field, facing Allied onslaughts, often abandoned nurses in retreats, as documented in post-war interrogations. In Cebu, Major General Sosaku Suzuki of the 35th Corps, Cihadar A 35th Army, prioritized defensive stands, leaving auxiliaries to fend in hidden enclaves. Contrast this with Allied leadership under General Douglas MacArthur, who mandated compliance with the Geneva Convention. Directives from Washington emphasized prisoner welfare, with camp commanders like those at Fort McCoy in Wisconsin tasked with rehabilitation. American officers, trained in psychological operations, used kindness as a tool to extract intelligence and demonstrate superiority. This approach extended to women prisoners, ensuring segregated facilities and medical priority, as per Army regulations. The clash of leadership philosophies, rigid honor versus pragmatic humanity, left Japanese women unprepared for captivity's realities. Propaganda painted the enemy in demonic hues, shaping perceptions that amplified terror. Japanese state media, controlled by the Cabinet Information Bureau, broadcast tales of American atrocities since the 1930s, escalating after Pearl Harbor. Posters and films depicted GIs as savage beasts, raping and cannibalizing captives, reinforced in auxiliary training manuals. Women like those in Cebu absorbed these narratives during indoctrination at bases in Japan, where instructors warned of Yankee devils desecrating bodies. Radio Tokyo's broadcasts, intercepted by allies, claimed POWs faced vivisection or slavery. This enemy perspective fostered mass suicides, as in Okinawa, where over 200 auxiliaries perished rather than surrender. American counterpropaganda, via leaflets from B-29 superfortresses, promised fair treatment, but distrust prevailed. Upon capture, the absence of expected brutality, guards offering rations instead of beatings, triggered cognitive dissonance. Reports from military intelligence noted prisoners' initial suspicion, viewing gestures as traps. This manufactured enmity dissolved slowly, revealing propaganda's fragility when confronted with evidence. Morality in total war blurred lines between duty and humanity, exacting a profound cost on all involved. The ethical imperative of Bushido clashed with universal prisoner rights, leading to self-inflicted losses. Estimates suggest up to 90% of Japanese forces died rather than capitulate. For women auxiliaries, moral burdens included caring for dying comrades amid starvation, their oaths to the emperor conflicting with survival instincts. Allied ethics, rooted in the 1929 Geneva Protocols, demanded protection of non-combatants, including medical personnel. Yet, the human toll persisted. Dysentery claimed lives in holdouts, while American soldiers grappled with orders to accept surrenders from an enemy taught to feign them. Post-war reflections in Red Cross reports highlighted the moral redemption in humane treatment, fostering reconciliation. The ethics of war questioned the price of loyalty, as these women, symbols of a nation's resolve, faced the ultimate test in yielding to life. Their journey from jungle shadows to structured captivity illuminated the moral paradoxes, where survival challenged indoctrinated ideals. November 5, 1945. Dawn breaks over the rugged hills of northern Cebu, where mist clings to the banana groves and the distant hum of American patrols echoes through the valleys. Lieutenant Masako Yamashita and her group of 4 other nurses, Chieko Nohara, Tomiko Morimoto, and 2 others whose names fade into the annals, huddle in a shallow cave. Their white uniforms stained with mud and blood from tending to the last wounded soldiers. Starvation has hollowed their cheeks. For weeks, they have subsisted on wild yams dug from the earth and rainwater sipped from leaves. The war's end, announced months earlier, feels like a distant myth here. Propaganda leaflets litter the ground outside, their promises of safety crumpled underfoot. Yamashita, at 28, trained at the Tokyo Imperial University Hospital, clutches a rusted scalpel, her only defense, though orders forbid its use against herself. Whispers pass among them, stories of Okinawa, where sisters in service chose cliffs over capture. The sound of boots crunching foliage grows nearer. American soldiers from the 77th Infantry Division, veterans of Leyte and Okinawa, fan out in a search pattern. Sergeant John Harlan, a farm boy from Iowa, leads the squad, armed with M1 Garands but under strict orders to take prisoners alive. Intelligence reports indicate stragglers, perhaps 50 left from the original thousands. Harlan's men spot movement near the cave entrance. A white flag emerges, improvised from a bandage. Yamashita steps out first, hands raised, her eyes locked on the ground to avoid the shame of eye contact. The others follow, trembling, expecting bayonets or worse. Harlan gestures calmly, his voice steady through a translator. A Nisei soldier from California, Private Kenji Tanaka. You are safe now. No harm will come to you. The women hesitate, indoctrination screaming betrayal, but exhaustion wins. They drop to their knees, tears mixing with dirt on their faces. Ropes are not used. Instead, the Americans offer canteens of fresh water and K-rations, chocolate bars that taste foreign and sweet. The nurses, averaging 25 years old, are searched gently for weapons, their medical kits noted with respect. Tanaka explains the Geneva rules. Medical personnel are protected. As trucks arrive, belching diesel fumes, the group is loaded aboard, bound for a staging area in Cebu City. En route, passing through liberated villages, Filipino civilians watch silently, some with hardened stares from years of occupation. At the temporary compound, medics from the 118th General Hospital check for malaria and wounds, administering sulfa powder and quinine. Yamashita winces as a bandage is changed, her leg infected from a shrapnel graze sustained during an August airstrike. By midday, the reality of surrender solidifies. Processed under floodlights, they receive identification tags and basic questionnaires. No beatings, no interrogations under duress, only questions about units and health. Transferred to a holding tent, they sit on cots, the canvas walls flapping in the breeze. Rumors circulate among guards. These are the first female holdouts from this sector. Evening falls, and transport orders arrive for shipment to a larger facility, perhaps Manila or stateside. Aboard a C-47 Dakota the next day, the women gaze out at the receding islands, the vast Pacific below symbolizing the gulf between past and uncertain future. Arrival at Nichols Field in Manila marks the next phase, where structured internment begins, and the first glimpses of American benevolence start to erode the walls of doubt. November 6, 1945. Nichols Field buzzes with activity under the tropical sun. C-47s taxiing on runways scarred by earlier Japanese bombings. The 5 nurses disembark, escorted by MPs from the 86th Infantry Division, their steps tentative on the tarmac. Manila's skyline looms in the distance, a mix of rubble from the February liberation battles and emerging reconstruction. Processed at a nearby tent, they receive clean khaki fatigues, oversized but fresh, replacing their shredded uniforms. Yamashita folds her old armband carefully, a relic of duty now stripped away. Interrogators arrive, led by Captain Eleanor Hayes from the Women's Army Corps, her presence a subtle assurance. Through Tanaka's translations, questions focus on troop movements and health, not coercion. Notes are taken methodically, with offers of tea from thermoses, steam rising in the humid air. Transferred by jeep to Camp Murphy, a repurposed Philippine Army base east of the city. The women enter through barbed wire gates guarded by Filipino scouts. Barracks await, wooden structures with screened windows, a far cry from jungle dugouts. Assigned to a women's section, segregated from male POWs, they find cots lined with mosquito nets and footlockers for personal items. A matron from the Army Nurse Corps, Lieutenant Maria Gonzalez, orients them. Daily routines include meals at 0700, 1200, and 1800, medical checks, and optional recreation. The nurses exchange glances, suspicion etched in their postures. Gonzalez explains the facilities: latrines with flush toilets, a laundry area with soap flakes, and the communal shower block. Hot water available mornings and evenings, she adds via translator. The words hang, met with blank stares. Hot water, a concept buried under years of field austerity. Tension builds as evening approaches. After a meal of rice, canned spam, and fresh vegetables, portions generous enough to cause unease, the group is led to the showers. Steam vents from pipes connected to boiler units, fueled by diesel generators humming nearby. Gonzalez demonstrates turning a faucet. Water cascades hot and clear, pooling on tiled floors. Yamashita steps forward first, her hand extended under the stream, warmth shocking her chilled skin. Disbelief flickers. Propaganda had promised dungeons, not this. One by one, they enter stalls, privacy curtains drawn. Morimoto sobs quietly as soap lathers away grime. The heat soothing aches from months in hiding. Nohara whispers in awe, "This cannot be real," her voice echoing off walls. Tears flow freely now, mixing with water, as indoctrinated fears shatter against this simple act of care. Guards outside note the shift, initial rigidity giving way to vulnerability. The moment lingers into night. Dried and in new pajamas, the women return to barracks, silence broken by tentative conversations. Tanaka, during a follow-up session, records their reactions. Astonishment at amenities, confusion over kindness. "We were told you would kill us," Yamashita admits, her composure cracking. This turning point, etched in steam and sobs, marks the unraveling of Empire's lies. As days unfold in the camp, these revelations ripple outward, altering perceptions and paving the way for what follows in the shadow of defeat. Days pass in Camp Murphy, where the rhythm of captivity replaces the chaos of survival. The 5 nurses, Yamashita, Nohara, Morimoto, and their companions, awaken to reveille at 0600, the bugle's notes piercing the dawn. Breakfast arrives, oatmeal with powdered milk, bread, and coffee. Flavors alien yet nourishing, calories restoring strength lost to the jungle. Medical examinations reveal vitamin deficiencies and parasites. Army doctors administer vitamins and antibiotics, charting recoveries in logbooks. Interactions with guards remain formal, but gestures accumulate. A Filipino orderly shares fruit. An American nurse demonstrates bandage techniques. Psychological shifts emerge. Initial silence gives way to questions about home, families back in Japan. Intelligence reports note their cooperation, providing details on hidden caches that aid mopping up operations on Cebu. No reprisals follow. Instead, Red Cross parcels arrive with clothing and books, fostering a fragile trust. The camp's population swells with other holdouts. Over 1,000 Japanese POWs by late 1945 in Philippine facilities alone. Women number fewer than 50, mostly nurses from scattered islands. Losses are tallied. Of Cebu's original 8,500 defenders, fewer than 1,000 survived to surrender, the rest claimed by combat, disease, or suicide. American casualties in the Visayas campaign exceed 5,000 killed, a grim exchange for liberation. Strategically, these captures accelerate pacification. Intelligence gleaned reshapes post-war planning, identifying war criminals for trials. Psychologically, the nurses confront defeat's weight. Letters from home, censored but delivered, speak of bombed cities and hunger, eroding imperial myths. One auxiliary, in a documented interview, expresses relief. "We expected death, but found life." Shifts in strategy manifest. U.S. forces prioritize rehabilitation, offering English classes and vocational training, preparing for repatriation amid the broader Allied victory. As repatriation ships gathered in Manila Bay, the horizon promised a return to a homeland forever altered. By December 1945, the Supreme Commander for the Allied Powers, under General Douglas MacArthur, initiated the organized return of Japanese nationals from overseas territories. Transports like the USS General John Pope departed Philippine ports, carrying thousands of former combatants and civilians, among them small numbers of female auxiliaries like those from Cebu. The nurses boarded under escort, their belongings limited to issued kits and personal mementos salvaged from captivity. Voyages lasted 2 weeks, navigating calm seas patrolled by U.S. Navy destroyers, with onboard rations mirroring camp standards, balanced meals, medical oversight, and deck time for exercise. Arrival at ports like Uraga or Yokohama unfolded amid ruins, bomb-scarred docks, families scanning manifests for names once declared dead, survivors' accounts, drawn from post-war interrogations and memoirs, reveal profound internal shifts. One auxiliary recalled the dissonance. "We expected demons, but found men who shared their abundance." Hot showers lingered in memory as a symbol of unforeseen mercy, contrasting with years of cold rinses and deprivation. Reflections turned introspective. Indoctrination's grip loosened as letters from home detailed Japan's own hardships, atomic devastation in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, widespread famine under occupation. Women like these nurses reintegrated quietly, restoring names to family registries as per government directives, the shame of surrender diluted in a nation's collective defeat. Many resumed civilian lives, some in rebuilt hospitals, applying skills honed in adversity. Psychological scars persisted, nightmares of jungles, but also gratitude that fueled subtle admiration for American efficiency. Broader ripples extended to U.S.-Japan relations. Humane treatment of POWs, documented in Red Cross inspections, laid groundwork for reconciliation. By 1946, over 5 million Japanese repatriates had returned, easing tensions and supporting MacArthur's democratization efforts. Constitution reforms, women's suffrage, land redistribution. Former auxiliaries witnessed this evolution, their experiences contributing to oral histories that humanized the enemy. In Tokyo's emerging peace, one nurse noted in a 1947 report, "Kindness in defeat taught us more than victory ever could." The war's end birthed not just survivors, but bridges across the Pacific, where simple acts like heated water echoed into enduring change. In the quiet aftermath of a war that reshaped empires, the simple provision of hot water stands as a poignant emblem of humanity's capacity for both destruction and grace. These Japanese nurses, once bound by oaths of unyielding sacrifice, encountered a world where survival did not demand death. Their disbelief in the steam-filled showers of Camp Murphy echoed the broader unraveling of illusions, propaganda's veil lifted by acts of unforeseen compassion. For history, this moment underscores the power of humane treatment in bridging divides, as outlined in the Geneva Conventions that guided Allied policies. It influenced post-war diplomacy, fostering the U.S.-Japan alliance that emerged from occupation reforms, including the 1947 Constitution granting women equal rights. Technologically, it highlighted disparities in wartime logistics, where American industrial prowess extended to soldier welfare, contrasting Japan's resource-strained campaigns. On a human level, these women carried forward lessons in resilience and reevaluation. Survivors like those from Cebu contributed to memoirs and interviews, such as those archived by the Japanese Red Cross, revealing how small mercies reshaped psyches scarred by indoctrination. Warfare, in its total form, demanded everything from individuals, yet in defeat, it offered glimpses of shared vulnerability. The hot water, a mundane luxury, became a catalyst for reflection, challenging notions of honor and enemy. As cherry blossoms bloomed in rebuilt gardens, these auxiliaries embodied the shift from conflict to coexistence, their stories a testament to endurance amid the ruins. In the grand narrative of World War II, such intimate encounters remind us that victory's true measure lies not in conquest, but in the restoration of dignity to the vanquished.